Seeing Beyond, Living Transformed is a spiritual crossing of the threshold to the world of being a truly expanded human being. Join mediums Cheryl and Kelley for conversations about discovering deep spirituality, developing your intuitive and empathic skills, and personal mediumship. Each episode will focus on tips, tools, and techniques to help you understand and expand your own inner gifts of life journey. Now, your host of Seeing Beyond, Living Transformed, Kelley and Cheryl.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to a special show today of Seeing Beyond, Living Transformed. We're thrilled to have our special guest today. But first, I want to welcome all of our listeners as you're logging on. Welcome to Seeing Beyond, Living Transformed and WLTKDB Radio. Todd's helping us behind the scenes. I do always want to greet my colleague for today, Kelley Eckhardt. Hi, Kelley. How are you?
Hello.
Good. Hi, everyone. Look, today's a special show, so we want to introduce you. If you don't know him yet, of course, his name is Jeffrey Peck, but he's a good friend of ours, and we titled the show "Spirit Takes the Wheel," and we'll tell you more about that as we get into our program. But I do want to welcome Jeffrey Peck, and before you say hello, Jeffrey, let me read your bio to everyone because it's really interesting learning about you and understanding more about your mediumship. So let me read your bio here. Jeffrey Peck is an evidential psychic medium. He has a loving and sensitive approach to the spirit world. His commitment and dedication, combined with his warm understanding and compassionate style, provide you with clarity and peace of mind. A session with Jeffrey will leave you with a clear knowing that your loved ones are still a part of your life with a sense of healing and hope. That's like one of the nicest bios I've ever read, Jeffrey. So
I really loved it too. I felt comfort with it.
I wanted to read that to share that it's so true with everyone joining us. And of course, Jeffrey's website is jeffreypeck.com. And so if you are new to Jeffrey, please sign up for his newsletter and we'll talk more about his show because he also has a podcast running. But Jeffrey, welcome to our show. Just say hello to everyone logging on. We're happy to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. And hi, everybody. It's nice to see you all here live with Cheryl and Kelley, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and we just have such great listeners, Jeffrey. We have Courtney joining us. We have Marie. We have Sue. So lots of people joining on as we move through our program today. And we are so appreciative of your time and that you're able to be on our show. We know that you're very busy with your own show, which we're going to ask you about.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask Jeffrey if he could share with us first. I mean, I'm just very curious because, we've been on this mission of talking about our own gifts and how it started and just, how we came about this. So if you want to share, like, how did you discover you were a medium?
Well, midlife. It happened when I was 36. Little kid life was very normal. Very normal. No sense of spiritual senses. Spirituality wasn't really talked about. It was religion. We went to the Lutheran church and that wasn't spiritual. I knowing now what I know what spirituality is, looking back, that just was never really spiritual for me. Mm-hmm. And in 2006, so my mother and my grandmother both have suffered with fibromyalgia, osteoarthritis, degenerative disc disease.
Are we related?
For decades.
Kelley.
For decades. And my grandmother passed away in 2002, never getting any sense of relief whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And then as my mom starts to get up there in age, she's exhibiting the same symptoms, and so in 2006, this is how spirit works. Total synchronicity. It was Labor Day 2006. I was in that decade. I did mortgages with real estate. that day was a day off, and a girlfriend of mine messaged me that morning, hey, let's go to the spa. Total last minute. And I was like, okay, cool. We lived in Phoenix, Scottsdale area, where it's resort style living, where, fabulous spas all over the place.
Mhm.
So she tells me where to meet her, and we get there, and the lady at the desk says, there are no men to be able to give you a massage, but we have plenty of women. I'm like, well, that's fine. I don't care who I'm with, just pick one.
Yeah.
And so she picked one. And as I'm in this treatment, this therapist, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 minutes into it, she says, you know what? I'm getting the feeling that I need to do Reiki with you. And I was like, what's that? So she explains it to me. And I was like, okay, cool. Go ahead. No clue whatsoever. But as she started to do this, I felt it. It was so mystical, I guess I want to say, because it wasn't anything I ever felt before or ever thought about. But I felt this wave of heat and tingles and just from my head to my toes and back and forth. And I mean, it felt like as if I had 10,000 butterflies surrounding my skin, flapping their wings. It was that subtle.
I love it.
And I was so amazed by it. I had her spell it 3 times. And she said, you can do this too. And she explained that it heals and it aligns, it balances physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, wherever it needs to be, wherever it needs to go. And so as she's telling me this, I'm thinking, I could totally do this for my mom. I mean, why not? What do we have to lose, right? Having nothing to lose.
What a great idea.
After that was over, I get home, I get on the Google, and I'm looking for a Reiki master local. And I find one. So that was September. November 11th, 2006, I went through my first Reiki weekend, level 1.
Oh,
And it absolutely changed my life.
it's amazing.
So what I didn't know, nor did I even understand, but the side effect for me was that it ignited all the spiritual senses. So I didn't really understand what spiritual senses were. I didn't know clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, all the clairs,
Right.
And my Reiki master told me after that weekend, she said, I want you to give yourself a Reiki treatment every day for 1 hour. I want you to learn from the energy. I want you to let it teach you. I want you to know what it feels like. I want you to know. And I was like, okay, cool. So I get home and I take myself into my walk-in closet and I walk in there with my crystals and some incense and cards, and I put myself into that meditative state and I'm giving myself a Reiki treatment. Over the next couple weeks, I started to experience visions, feelings, what looked like memories, felt like memories, but they weren't my memories.
Right.
I was seeing beings with my third eye. Of course, I thought I was imagining all of this. I thought I was kind of going bonkers a little bit. But I told my Reiki master what was happening, and she just smiled. She said, you're opening up to spirit.
Oh my God.
And she said, you're going to be a huge channel one day. And I was like, no, I'm not. And she goes, yeah, you will. And I said, no, I'm not. Because, in 2006, the only quote channel I knew of at the time was Esther Hicks, Abraham, and Jerry. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That trance channel is what I equated channeling to be.
Mhm.
Of course, then moving through it, and I recognize channeling, the clairvoyance and the clairaudience and the all of that. It's all channeling, right? And she laughed at me that day and she said, you just need to change your definition of the word channeling.
Yeah.
And so I did. And that's kind of what led to everything. And then as I'm going through treatments with people that are being referred to me, suddenly I sense their loved ones in the room with us. And at first I didn't know what was happening. I thought I was imagining it. I thought I was making it all up. But I knew that this man was here or this lady or whomever, until finally it was so strong. I felt like I had to say something. And I asked my client, I said, do you mind if I talk? Because I feel like I need to speak. And he's like, sure. And I said, I think your grandfather's with us. And so I started describing his grandfather.
Ooh.
And I was describing his personality and things that he loved to do. And he's like, yeah, that's totally him. And then I saw this flash in my mind's eye of this great big apple tree. And I knew it was in the backyard. I don't know how I knew it, but I knew it was in the backyard.
Right.
And I said, he's showing me this great big apple tree in the backyard. And he's so proud of it. He's so proud of it. And he shared with the whole town. He was known for this apple tree.
Good God.
And my client was just like, smacked. And he's like, he had an apple tree in his backyard. He was known for it. And he was so proud of it. And he shared apples, pies, torts, you name it, with everybody. So that was my first real experience where I was like, delivering evidential mediumship before I really even knew what I was doing. It was like a spontaneous transmission,
So natural.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how it started for me. And that was in 2007. And then I worked a Muggle job, from 2010 to 2019. And I knew after the Muggle job was over, this is where I was going.
Oh my gosh.
So in that time, I just continued to develop and unfold and develop and unfold. And that's where I am today.
Awesome. Yeah, I hear a lot of people, that start with Reiki end up discovering that they're mediums, and then it's almost like a gateway to the mediumship for people.
It's true. And I a lot of the people that I spoke with prior to interviewing people for my show or getting out there and developing a community of colleagues, who have their own journeys. The people that I knew at first, they all had the same story where they felt it in the crib. They were talking to their grandparents in the crib. And then they had their experiences through life where they dismissed it. And then it came back because that was their calling and that's what they were supposed to do. But they had this, in my mind, they had this lifetime of experience with the spiritual senses, right?
Right.
After I came out and I started talking about my experience, I'm finding more and more that there are so many of us that came through to this midlife, whether it's from trauma. I mean, so many of us come out of this through trauma. Losing
you
loved
open.
one. Yeah.
It opens you up
completely. Whether it's, like losing a loved one or a horrible car accident or maybe an almost deathly illness that almost took him out.
Near death.
The trauma that too. And then of course, through spiritually mystical, somebody going to Sedona and sitting in a vortex and boop, suddenly they're wide open.
Well, you were ready then, as Kelley said. You were ready, and your guides and angels were ready for you to open, and they worked through that massage therapist.
They absolutely did.
That's how they work.
It's so true. That
if you're not listening, they bring you somewhere to find a way, to get through to you.
It is those little nudges, and I almost said no to that phone call that day. I was like, well, I don't feel like getting ready. I don't want to leave the house. I almost said no, but somewhere in there, I felt a nudge, and I'm like, okay. And I get there, and then I don't have anybody to choose from, and I'm like, just give me whoever. I don't care. And it's just the synchronicities.
You're guided.
Wow.
It's interesting that you say you had a normal childhood, but I wonder if you were to ask your mom or grandparents, had you ever said anything that was odd, or did they ever suspect? I bet there might be some stories that nobody talked about because religion gets in the way sometimes, and people want to ignore it and push it away or push it down. Because I would say you're more of a natural medium, just listening from that story. And everybody has mediumship, I believe, but then there's people that are actually born with the gift where it's just boom, it just is there when you start developing it. And so I would wonder if you've ever asked, your mom or your dad or anybody.
Well, my mother, I did ask my mother, and she doesn't remember much. But the only thing she remembered was I've always been a huge dreamer, massive dreams. And I would have and I was always very anxious, just big anxiety growing up as a child.
Yeah. So those are signs right there. Yeah.
And so looking back, I recognize that part The dreams have always been so vivid and lucid and colorful. And, you know, they say that most people can't read words in their dreams, I guess. But I read words, you know, I can see words. So my mom, that she was able to pinpoint it back to at least that. And that makes sense.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, you know, I think a lot of people are in our society, you know, especially boys, we're taught to, like, you know, ignore these things, ignore that they're empathic and they have to be strong, they have to be tough, they need to be this way. It's in all the, you know, storybooks for kids, it's in school, like it's like you have to be a certain way in our country, right? And so it kind of stifles a lot of children that are gifted, and they're never, you know, figuring it out until later in life. And sometimes the journey to find out that that's really who they are is a tough journey.
Yeah.
You know, it's a rough journey because our society's, you know, chews us up and spits us out because we're so sensitive.
Yeah. Oh, and I was very sensitive too. That's for sure.
I have 2 sensitive boys. I know what it's like. And the one, you know, went the opposite direction, and his, you know, he had the rough journey. And then my younger one, you know, I started developing, and he understands his gift, and he was able to shut it off so he could have a normal teen life on his own, you know, and we're open about it. You know what I mean? And I wish I had learned it or established enough to really speak about it when my older son, he passed away, but when he was little, because it would have changed his life, I think.
Oh, it would have. Yeah.
He was a healer, and I knew it. He was my, you know, we understood what was going on with people, and, you know, he was just a natural healer. And instead of becoming who he should have been, he tried to conform to what society wanted, which was for him to be a tough guy and this and that. So he never really fit in. He was always trying to fit in, and he became a follower. And of course, drugs led, you know, the way after that.
Yeah.
It was tough, you know, and he was part of my journey, and he works with me now, you know, but when I had my last one, he's the one that really forced me to accept my gift, because I've had it my whole life and always known it, but tried to ignore it or avoid it. Because I didn't want to be weird. I thought, like, everyone's gonna think I'm weird. They're gonna commit me if I don't. So it wasn't until the last one,
Jeffrey, can I ask you? So, I mean, just hearing your story is fascinating, and thank you again so much for being on our show today. Because, I mean, for people, as you mentioned, a midlife medium, or it hit you midlife, even 36 is not midlife, but we know what you mean, right? The adulthood of things. But really, you know, a lot of people are having spiritual awakenings, right? And it's happening later in life for people. And you know, and they have these questions, and we're so happy, you know, that you're able to share your gifts and that you decided to do this full time. And if I can ask you, because you sound like you're very claircognizant, like you knew you were going to take Reiki classes, you knew this is what you wanted to study. And what other clairs, like, are you clairsentient? I'm sure you're very sensitive, because you mentioned the feeling of the butterflies, right? Are you also what other clairs are you?
Okay. Starting out, no, because I was telling you about the dreams. I mean, I'm very visual. So that's always been what I thought was my top clair. But then as I'm cruising along forward through teachers and learning what all the clairs mean, the sensitivity, the clairsentience, I mean, that's a really huge one within me as well. I always felt like clairaudience. I never understood it. I felt like I was the deaf medium, because I wasn't hearing things like my clairaudient friends would tell me.
Me too.
You know, so here's what happened with me. I created these expectations and demands that ended up blocking me, because I expected to hear like my friends did. I expected to hear on the outside, that I was going to hear a little old lady's, a Jewish grandmother's voice on the outside.
Yeah.
Never heard anything on the outside. So I thought, nope, mine's broken. And then I thought, okay, well, I'm going to hear this little old Jewish grandmother's voice on the inside of my head. I've never heard anybody's voice other than my own on the inside of my head. What I realized through learning and training and practicing, my clairaudience, like, I get words that just plop into my head. I get paragraphs that just plop into my head That's how my clairaudience works. So once I was able to recognize that I was blocking myself with these subconscious expectations and demands, then I was like, I get it. So then the claircognizance. Now that's one that I just can't explain where that comes from, because if you're seeing something in your mind, you can see it. If you say, imagine a purple elephant, boom, all of us can imagine a purple elephant. And but cognizance, that's how do you explain that one?
I don't know. That's a good one.
And I think my favorite thing was, I just know, I don't know how I know.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And then the clairgustance and the clairessence, the smell and the taste, that all happened through developing and unfolding and practicing with people over and over. And suddenly you're smelling chocolate chip cookies or a lasagna or cigars, you know what I'm saying? And it's so bizarre when it happens the first time.
Yeah. So just for everyone listening, the clairgustance is the tasting. So if you like, Jeffrey was talking about tasting lasagna sauce, or the clairalience or alience, it's about the smelling, whether you may smell cologne or flowers or cigarette smoke
or cigars or
cigars. So those are fascinating in their own right.
Yeah,
they are fast. And like mine just sort of popped into through development. I never, because I have a very weak sense of smell as it is in normal life, so, but with spirit, when I'm doing a reading, it's so strong. It's crazy. Yeah.
So it is.
For our viewers today, for everyone listening, we want to, Jeffrey, you said it so eloquently about how it wasn't working for you because of your expectations, or maybe, you limited it maybe or something. Can you tell us again, what happened that you got it to start working, your clairaudience? You let go, you release, you didn't know. How did it work for you?
That's it. I let go. I surrendered. After having
surrendered. Oh yeah, right.
With friends, new friends that were telling me that was their number one clair, that was their strongest clair. They'd explain how they would experience it, and when I realized that I wasn't going to experience it that way, and I just was like, okay, well, it'll happen when it's supposed to happen, and then, like I said, those words started plopping in my head, and when I say showing up, I wasn't thinking about anything. I was as blank as a TV screen that's turned off. And all of a sudden, boop, 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 here come these words. And then I was like, aha. So really, it's surrender. It's surrender.
It is, right?
And to know that it's different for everybody, right? Everyone's clairaudience, mine works different from yours, that works different from Kelley's. It's okay that we all have it working differently for us. It's okay that it's not one way or the highway, so you have to learn, you have to kind of get used to what works for you as a medium, and the spirit world's working with you. So I'm just loving it. Love this conversation today, because that's really the name of our talk today, is letting spirit take the wheel. So that's what you did, Jeffrey. You just surrendered.
It's so true.
And that's the word, surrender. It's like giving into our ego, giving in control. And I oftentimes feel like when I feel a little stuck, or oh my goodness, look
fearlessly.
Look at this. Oh, you really surrendered. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. I love that. I absolutely love that tattoo. That is the best. I was just going to say, I often find that when I'm stuck, I take a deep breath and then I kind of close my eyes and I say, all right, as I'm letting that breath out, I surrender. I'm just going to allow it to happen, whatever. I'm not going to overthink it. I'm going to give it just like you give it. And boom, it just pops right in. Sometimes we have to do that. I think we try to control in our life everything, not always, but in this situation, I thought I in the beginning, I was a natural, but then I tried to control it, and then I was stuck, and then I kind of got back into it. It was weird.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Hey guys, can we take a question? Because I just saw Bianca type in a question. I think we can all maybe pitch in and answer this. Hey Bianca, thanks for joining us today. She's asking, how do you discern between what is the clair and what is mind chatter? Would either one of you like to take that?
Well, I'm curious what you have to say, Jeffrey, because I have an answer for that, but I want to hear what he has to say, because I don't want to go first. How's that?
So when I'm working, Do you hear that noise?
I do. What is that? Is your computer? The fan?
It was the fan.
Yeah, the fan on the computer. Yeah, it sounded like a computer fan. That's hilarious.
Please hold one moment. Okay, so when I'm working, I have found a way within myself where I can completely set my ego to the side, and I am allowing myself to remain blank. And when spirit is coming through and blending with us and sending through those messages, whether it's visual or audient or the feelings or whatever, it all happens so fast. But there's this feeling when it's happening that you know it's the truth. And it's kind of like this is kind of a strange way to look at it, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's kind of like if you tell yourself a lie, if you tell yourself something that is not true, feel it. Then tell yourself what's true, feel that. You can feel the difference between those two. You look in the mirror and say, my name is Bob. What's up, Bob?
I was going to say that.
Oh. You're connected.
Okay, go ahead.
You can feel it. That's not true. And then when you say, hi, my name is Jeffrey, that alignment, that balance, you can feel it from the very core of who you are. So when that information is coming through, it's a skill that you learn to cultivate and manage when you're in the midst of that spiritual connection.
I love the way you described it.
Yeah, that was perfect. Yeah.
So I was going to say, for me, when I started developing, I got so many different types of teachers because I was just taking classes everywhere that it kind of threw me off. And so when I finally started doing evidential mediumship, I was real set on using the words I feel, I see, I hear, I taste, I smell to identify what clairs I'm using. So I set the intention to really use that type of language for me. And so when I teach, I always have my students use those words so that we're learning early on to identify what clair they're using. And when it comes to mind chatter, I believe that if you surrender and you trust that when you're practicing in a development circle or when you're doing an actual reading, that mind chatter is just as much part of the reading as anything. And you you just trust it and go with it. But when I'm out and about, my son's in spirit. He's always talking smack to me. We're in the car. He'll tell me to slow down, or I'll be like reminiscing memories of when he was younger. And he's like, come on, Mom, let's be real. That's not really how it went down. So he's always in my mind. That's not me. I know it's my son. Yeah. So, I mean, it's hard to say, but I just trust, I guess, my thing. And I like the way you went into detail and described it. But that's how I would
really good. Really good. And Bianca, we hope that answered your question. Thanks for asking that question. We'd love to hear, Bianca, if you understood what we were saying and that you're open to receiving. And yes, surrender is continual too. You're not just surrendering before the reading or at the beginning of the reading, you're surrendering throughout the reading. And as Jeffrey mentioned, it is about just learning how to quiet the mind, or through meditation, or as he mentioned, putting the mind on a shelf or to the side, so to speak, and knowing that when you're sitting with your client or the sitter, that everything is about them. What with the information coming through, it's that setting the intention, Bianca. So set that intention that's going to happen for you, and use those affirmations, as Kelley was saying. I hear, I know that your loved one's here. I hear them talking about chocolate chip cookies, or this type of thing. It ignites that energy. We'd love to hear, Bianca, from you. We appreciate such a good question.
Yeah. And Sue says she still needs to learn to quiet the mind. I think that's a lifelong development or practice.
It is.
And that it's not something you get to learn and then it just stays that way forever. It's something it's a muscle, right?
It is.
It's kind of like you've got it, because I'll be great at quieting my mind, and then suddenly things are happening in my personal life and it's hard to get the mind quiet again. And I have to sit in my do what I need to do, which is sit in my power, you know, and not necessarily meditate, but kind of just practice that tool of sitting in the power, you know?
It's very true. It's very true. Surrendering, you know, when you're in the midst of a reading and, you know, and let's be honest, it happens. It happens all the time when you're getting information. Like you might think, you start to think like, did I hear that right? Was that right? Or what was that? The minute you start to think, you're dropping out. So you're like, and then you catch yourself and you're like, woo, coming back, you know? So it's very true. It is a skill. And you learn that by taking that time to intentionally sit with your soul and sit with that presence and that power. And the more you do it, it's like going to the spiritual gym. Like you said, it's like a muscle. You know, you start with 15 seconds and then you start with a minute, and then you go to a minute, and then you go to 2 minutes, and suddenly you're so in alignment with your soul, right into your core, that you're just kind of like, you're just there, and you just kind of disappear into it. And suddenly 15, 20, 30 minutes goes by and in a blink, and you're like, woo, I feel good.
Right? It's like a natural high.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah.
So I want to tell everyone, Jeffrey, more about you. I want you to tell us like how to just, you know, take a moment here about your website. Talk to us about your YouTube channel, please, and your show that you have, which is terrific. So please share that information with us. And we're going to have Brianna ask her to put those links in the comment section.
So I have what started out as a podcast last June called Something Super Spiritual. And back when I had started to open up, and I knew that this is the direction it was going, I knew this is where I was headed. I knew that radio was ahead. I needed a website. You know, I'm starting to plan all of what is to come with this, right? I took a notepad and I started to write a little format, like an outline. You know, what's this show going to look like? What do I want to talk about? How's it going to be? And I wrote a line at the top of the notebook for the title. And I thought about it for an hour. I think I thought about it, and I could not think of anything. And I knew that it wanted to be something super spiritual, but I didn't know what it was going to sound like. I wanted it to be something super spiritual. So then I was like, I just can't think about this anymore. So I wrote, well, it's going to be something super spiritual. I figured out later. And I came back to it later, and I saw it, and I was like, oh, that's it.
That's it.
That's awesome.
And so here, fast forward. Okay, that was in 2008. So here we are 15 years later. Well, 14 last year I started it. But so I started out the podcast, and it's been a really great experience. I've had really amazing guests. I have mostly interviews with other spiritual teachers, psychic mediums, anybody with a spiritual practice, because anything in our life day to day is and should be spiritually minded. So it doesn't matter if it's a gym trainer, a fitness trainer. I know a guy who is a fitness trainer, but he blends fitness training with spirituality in the way that he teaches.
Yay.
Boom. It's something super spiritual with him.
Yes.
So it's such a broad range to be able to talk about everything that there is out there, and just talk and teach and get it all out there and let everybody know that life is so much more than what we have been programmed to believe. You understand?
Exactly. Programmed.
So, the truth.
It's so true. We get imprinted by our parents, by religion, by society, by culture, by subculture, you know, and it's all over the place, you know. So when we finally come to that place of self-awareness and self-realization and self-actualization, you know, Tony Riley, who is Australia's go-to for past life regression hypnotherapy, she's awesome. She had this quote, and it was, okay, give me a second. I'm gonna remember this. Self-awareness is the ultimate activism.
Oh, isn't that neat?
I like
Very spot on.
It's so beautiful, and it's so true. So, all right. So I'm going back to the show. We have interviews every week.
What day of the week? What days of the week are you on? Or
Thursdays are the days that it usually drops. I've been kind of off kilter since the holidays.
Okay.
But it's always at least once a week. And if I miss a week, then I catch up with 2 the next week.
Oh, nice.
I knew that YouTube was coming.
Yeah.
But YouTube scared me because I was already feeling super vulnerable, and exposed. I was just feeling so like, oh, the haters are going to come at me any minute now. I just know this. They didn't. I had a few come at me, but guess what? I'm still here. I'm still alive. I'm unscathed. I'm glad that happened early on. I get that out of the way,
Yeah.
So in November, now I had procrastinating, and I'm procrastinating, and I'm getting these pings from spirit, from heaven, in my YouTube. And I'm like, yeah. In November, my brother text messages me, and out of the blue, and he says, hey, brother, you really need to put your stuff on YouTube because I have such a hard time listening to it on the podcast platform on my phone. And I like to watch and listen. And I was like, okay, heaven, you know what? I hear you.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, okay, I'll get to it. 2 days later, he texts me again and he says, brother, you really need to put your stuff on YouTube. And if you don't know how to do it, I'll figure it out. Send me your stuff. I'll put it on your channel. And I thought, ooh, heaven, you are sneaky.
Yes.
And I kid you not, 2 days later on that Saturday morning in November, I woke up at like 6:30 in the morning, and I almost never reach for my phone for Facebook first thing in the morning. Never. And that morning I reached for my phone. Again, synchronicity, spirit pinging you, going nudge, nudge, nudge. I picked up my phone. I went to Facebook. The very first post at the top of my feed is my friend Savon Champel, who is a beautiful psychic medium out of Los Angeles.
Yes, we know him.
It says, I don't know who needs to see this, but you need to get on YouTube now. Stop hiding under the radar. Stop procrastinating. People need to hear what you want to say. I mean, I was like, okay. I got up, I took care of the dogs, I made some coffee, and I literally sat down right here for 15 straight hours and started putting them up on YouTube one after another. And
that's awesome.
And that's where it's going. I've been getting so much great feedback. And Cheryl, you were on there with me, and that episode had such great feedback, and pinged so many people. People love to talk about their pets, and knowing that pets are conscious beings and is everything for all of us who, and that's most of us. We have pets,
Well, I have a lot.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed it. And for everyone listening, you can always watch the replays on your YouTube channel, right? You have the replays. So you guys, and I posted your show on my YouTube channel so people can watch that replay there. And Jeffrey, let me ask you, I know, so you're doing the YouTube show. So everyone, please subscribe to his YouTube channel. I mean, such interesting people on his program. Jeffrey, are you also doing private readings? Can you tell us, are you doing private readings?
Yes.
And do you do them by Zoom and phone?
Yes.
Or what are you in person?
Yeah, I do everything by Zoom right now. I don't have anywhere to go for in person yet, but everything is on Zoom. So after my job ended at the end of 2018, right at the beginning of 2019, that's where I knew that I was being set up to go this direction for the rest of my life. And then COVID happened a year later. So I started consciously working this direction right as COVID was hitting. So there was nowhere to go but Zoom.
Oh,
and so that's like, I know so many people that have been doing this for decades where they had to suddenly go on Zoom and they were freaked out because they were like, how is this going to work? How is this going to happen? Is this going to happen? Of course, they found out that it absolutely happens because there is no time and space and distance. We're all connected. So everything is on Zoom right now. And I do Zoom galleries with groups. And and I am getting ready to go live. I just haven't yet because, well, like we said earlier, I'm still kind of a chicken.
Well, hey,
we'll go with you.
Our listeners, how is Jeffrey doing so far? Because this is a live program. So how is he doing? Isn't he doing great? I mean, you're natural, really great, such a great communicator, Jeffrey.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have a great question I'd like to ask that somebody's asked here, if you guys don't mind.
Yes.
So Keith says, what is the best way to practice to get deeper into the soul, and how would you set it into a daily routine? And everybody's saying you're wonderful and you rock.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's a really great question. And we had touched on it a little bit earlier when we were talking about sitting in the power.
We did.
And when you're sitting in the power, you're sitting in the power of spirit. You're not in your power. This isn't a power of force that we control. It isn't a power over. This is sitting in the power of God / source / spirit / universe, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same, right? And you're sitting in that power with the intention of truly connecting through your soul to all that is. It's the power that we feel from the sun. It's the power that moves the clouds across the sky. It's the power that causes that little grass blade to grow up through it's the power that unfolds the flowers. And that's what we're connecting to. And it's that's the power of your soul. So set it into a daily routine, just with intention. Start slowly, just start with 5 minutes or less if you're just, ADHD, and I totally understand that. The monkey mind is, that can be tough sometimes. But, when you recognize it and acknowledge it without judgment, like without shame, we all have this hardware that just doesn't shut up.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's totally okay. I have this visual. I had somebody who was teaching me to meditate like well over 15 years ago. And they just told me to acknowledge it without judgment and just, shush it away. It's okay. So I had this, I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember the Carol Burnett show, but the Carol Burnett show, when she would come on screen with that little broom and sweep.
Oh, yeah.
So I have this little Carol Burnett character going through, sweeping up those thoughts, pushing them into the little dustpan. Just my way of just acknowledging without judgment, without frustration, without annoyance, and just letting it be what it is, and then go right back into that space of silence.
That's great. I love that.
Jeffrey, you're making this so much fun to learn. You're making spirituality fun to learn. So I thank you, and I know everyone's appreciative of how you're explaining, and because you're giving us these visual examples, and it's very helpful for someone learning, and for people who are clairvoyant. Jeffrey, I do want to ask you, it just went past me. Oh, I know what I wanted to say, Jeffrey. You're sitting in the power examples were also very clear, and we appreciate everything. You need to record some meditations if you haven't already.
Oh, thank you.
Has anyone told you that before?
So actually I did record one. I have it on my YouTube page, and it's gotten some really great feedback.
Okay.
And that too, nudge from spirit. So you just validated, that I need to do this more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got some really great feedback on that meditation, and it's my white light meditation. And it's, somebody had asked me once, what I do to ground myself and connect myself. And I have this meditation where I walk you through a guided visualization of grounding and through that white light. When we are in the white light, by default, we are protected. So there's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to be, like you're going to get bothered by anything negative, or what's out there in the paranormal shows. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So by default, you are protected. You're in this white light. And so I just describe how I visualize this white beam of light going from my root chakra to the center of the earth. And simultaneously, this white beam of light going from my crown to the center of heaven, the center of spirit.
I do the same thing.
You do?
It's great.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
So Jeffrey, you are offering a free meditation. This is free on your YouTube channel, right?
Yes.
So for everyone listening, because grounding is so healthy, it's healthy. And I think it's part of that spiritual health. And I know all the three of us are mediums, and we practice grounding every day. So for Jeffrey to offer a free meditation on his YouTube channel, please go there. Please subscribe
to
his channel. And really, that's what a gift. What a gift, Jeffrey. Thank you for offering that.
Thank you. Yeah. If I'm not grounded, I'm like, that helium balloon in Bugs Bunny, that's just going. I mean, I'm all over the place. So grounding is very important.
Me too. I forget everything if I'm not grounded. I mean, I could literally walk in circles trying to do something, but every time I get to where I'm going to do it, I forget, and then I go back and then I remember, and it's like I have to ground myself.
Oh, totally. I've done that. I have an island in my kitchen, and I've walked around it 4 times, like, okay, you remember, then you forget. Then you remember, then you forget. Oh, yeah.
It's just crazy. I mean, I think that, we work from home, my husband and I, so a lot of times my husband and my son distract me, and it's like, and then we have 3 dogs and 4 cats, and they distract me, so it's hard to stay focused and grounded.
Yes.
But it's important, very important. Yeah.
Definitely. Gosh, it was so much fun. I know, Jeffrey, we're going to have you back. We're not finished with our show today, but just to take a breather here, what a pleasure it is to have you on our show today, and really getting to find out more about how you're practicing your mediumship. Because what I learned about you, Jeffrey, was that when you do connect in your mediumship readings to the spirit world, your philosophy or your outlook is that they're people. These are your loved ones over here, and they're people just like me, just like you, right? I love when I heard that and read that about you.
It's true. They're no different than you or I. They just don't have this physical body anymore.
Exactly.
They're still here. I mean, you put your arm out as far as it goes. That's where they are. It's just in a parallel dimension, so to speak.
Right.
And so, yeah, they're here, and they are people. They're regular people. I do believe that we shed our ego when we get over there, but we're still ourselves. We're still ourselves. And so here's another thing. Speaking of just being people, in mediumship readings, especially at the beginning, when I was feeling like I wasn't getting what I thought I should, I was like, well, I must be off, or I was shaming myself because I thought I was wrong, right? What I came to figure out was that the person that I had here with me, they were super quiet in life. They were introverted. They weren't outspoken. They, they're not going to be, Bette Midler personality once
they're not going to come knocking down the barn doors if they were shy in life, right?
No. Yeah. And so it's true. We are still ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so true. And it took me a while to figure that out too, because I had expectations, and like I would get like a grandparent and a grandmother, and who was super outgoing and loving, and then the grandfather just really didn't say much. And I felt bad, and they're like, well, he never said much in life. So it was like, that was grandpa.
Yeah.
It's just,
I have had a loved one knock the barn door down when they got my attention in a reading. That's why I use it as an example, because that's just to show you that that's their personality in life. They were an extrovert. They loved being the center of attention, so to speak, where, as Jeffrey and Kelley are mentioning, if they're shy and quiet and reserved, they'll feel like that as they're coming in. And it's really our job as the medium, or our invitation as a medium, to surrender even more, and I'll give them that space, or allow them that freedom to follow through, that we're just following the spirit world, we're just telling their story, we're like walking beside them, or just taking the lead, so to speak. So I loved it when I read that about you, about their people. And that's really a respect. It does show a respect that we have for the spirit world. We try to do our best as mediums, and because they're our loved ones too, in some way. We all have, parents or cousins or siblings or children, friends. And so we always try to know how that may feel to someone. So we try to have that reverence.
Yeah. As I sit here in my readings, I sit right here, and right over here, this is my front door. We all do things a little bit differently, right? We all do things a little bit differently. For me, when I'm connecting, when I'm blending, and it started out at the beginning, but I just automatically, it's like a reflex, I turn to the right. And that's when I get my information. Okay. That's when I get my information. And I explain it like, well, if somebody walked in your front door, you would turn and acknowledge them.
Yes.
And it's that reflex. It's that because they are people. And it's just my way of acknowledging, well, they're here and this is where they are. And, yeah, it's, Tyler Henry, he has a pad and he scribbles. That's how he gets into that zone. And for some reason, I just, I go to the right and
yeah, I
like,
hear you. I hear you. Oh,
I
it's just so
scribble
meaningful.
too, but I get spirit comes from me. If it's family, mom's on my right and dad comes in on my left, and friends come down the middle.
Oh, that's
I
cool.
love it.
Yeah, at first it took me about a year to figure out that's what was happening because I don't know, I just think I was trying to fight it, but now I just go with it.
Yeah.
Kelley, can I take a moment and just ask you about your upcoming events? Because I know that you are very busy these days, and I want to talk about your Egypt event just to share that again with people. But tell us what you have, please. And
so I do have Egypt coming up in November, and I have my first Egypt meeting, and a lot of the feedback people are looking for on this trip were initiations, meditations. So I am putting that together. That will be part of the trip. We do have private time in the temples and inside the pyramids to do those things. So I am very excited about that. If you want to know more, go to my website and sign up for my newsletter and come to my next meeting when I post it. I also have AJ Barrera coming to Sacramento to do an event. We just moved it to my Love and Light Center. So everything's at my Love and Light Center. We're going to do a Dem, him and I together on Friday, March 31st. And then on Saturday, April 1st, he is teaching an intuitive investigation course, which I highly recommend. AJ is an amazing medium and he works with the LAPD. He works on cold cases quite often. And this is something he's been doing for a long time, and he's an amazing teacher. I've taken the course. I love it, and I'm going to probably take it again when he comes.
Yeah,
so check that out.
That's great. That's great. And thank you so much for sharing and for everyone talking about your Egypt trip. It's really very special. It's very sacred. It's about having an experience of your life. I mean, this can be a life-changing trip for people, who are on this path or wanting to open up. You feel the energies of the pyramids, and you have Kelley as an instructor. You have a professional tour guide that, and you're going to be staying in some really nice places. So you will certainly be well cared for, I know, with Kelley.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a hotel snob, so they're all 5-star hotels. I told the guy, I'm like, I cannot stay in anything but 5-star. I'm sorry. And we do go on a 5-star cruise on the Nile River as well for 3 nights. So a lot of it is really nicely done. Everything's included except for your airfare there and your what is it? When you travel, you have to get your visas and all that and tips.
Right.
But it's going to be an amazing trip. I'm very excited and looking forward to it.
And as you begin talking now, Kelley, you have all these lights coming from the window that's next to you. It's like now Kelley's opening up all of her chakras up here and talking about.
I know. I cannot get rid of it's that time of the day, the lights are shining in through the blinds.
Yeah.
Oh well. That's what happens when I work at home.
Well, if I could just
Cheryl, tell us what's going on with you.
Well, can I just quickly say thank you guys for being with me today. I mean, this is such a pleasure for me to be a part of Seeing Beyond Living Transformed, Kelley, and both Jeffrey and Kelley. But I have a group event coming up with Thomas John March 15th. And I believe that link is being posted in the comments section. Thanks, Brianna, for doing that. It is March 15th, healingmessages.eventbrite.com. Please join us. It's myself with Thomas John. It's 2 hours of an online demonstration of mediumship readings of, hope and healing and, validation and really connecting with your loved ones in a big way. So we're looking forward to that. And then also I have my private, 8-person only is the maximum I'll take on my small circle event, which it's called Circle of Love. That's coming up April 7th. That's my next one. So that's a small group reading online where I go around and for 8 people and we spend time together. We do mediumship readings and psychic intuitive readings. So everyone will get a reading on my small group event. That's April 7th. And then just lastly, everyone, I do have my healing prayer circle, and that's every Sunday. That's free to join. So I always encourage you, if you're looking for a community of like-minded people, of a high vibe tribe, please join that healing prayer circle. And if you can't make it on Sundays at 6 p.m. Pacific time, go ahead and sign up anyway, and you'll receive a recording in your inbox the next day. So it's really powerful what the three of us are doing together, and then individually. So, really just applauding both Kelley and Jeffrey for really teaching mediumship and intuitive abilities, for really reaching other people and, giving your take on things about how it works for you. Because, all of us being teachers and mentors, we're hoping to get that word out that, it's different for everybody. And if we can just support you on your path, if we can help you on your journey by encouraging you, even if you do this professionally or not, your life will be enhanced, right? Your life will be elevated.
I agree.
It changes everything.
It changes everything.
It changes your perspective. It changes the way you view things. I believe it brings more happiness and peace and comfort. I think I tell people all the time, like, even if you don't want to be a medium, you don't have to be, like, just learn this, because we all have the ability to have these connections, and it'll just enhance your life. I agree.
And you don't have to know how to do it. We're here to support you, and it just takes some practice and an open mind and an open heart.
Yes, it does.
Truth.
Well, it is getting towards the end. And
yeah, I know we're closing up here. I wish we could keep going, because as you guys mentioned, time flies, right? When you're just having a great event happening. And I know that we've reached so many people. I know this replay will continue to reach many, many people. So we appreciate having you on, Jeffrey.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been
welcome.
An absolute blast. And yeah, it seems like we've been on for 12 minutes.
I know.
I know. It's like we forgot one announcement that's very important, Cheryl.
Yes. Well, I just saw that, Kelley. So I will let you share that with our listeners.
Next week, we start at our new time, which is going to be 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So make sure you make note of that. And next week, Cheryl is off, and I will be interviewing AJ Barrera. And I believe I have a co-host who is coming back on that everybody knows, and who's my favorite person other than Cheryl. And oh my gosh, she said, oh, I thought Brianna wrote another note. Anyway, so I just drew a blank.
Lori Albert.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. My menopause. I was like, what's her name? Come on. Lori Albert is my favorite person, and she will be co-hosting with me to interview AJ next week. So come 7 p.m. and that'll be our new time. I'm so excited.
So everyone, thank you again. And Jeffrey, just namaste, right? Thank you, Jeffrey.
Namaste. Thank you so much. This has been an absolute blast. I can't wait to come back.
Yeah, well, we're going to have you back for sure. You might be one of our other co-hosts, like Lori.
I would love that.
When Cheryl or I are out, we like to invite somebody else to do the show with us.
And you can call me whatever you want.
I usually know names, but I have this thing, like when I hit my 50s, I started forgetting names.
So everyone, thank you guys for being with us today. Thank you to all our listeners. We have Keith, Courtney, Julia, Sue, thank you, and so many more. Thank you for joining us on Seeing Beyond Living Transformed. Remember, next week we begin our new time slot, 7 p.m. Pacific time.
So excited.
And that's still on Wednesday. So we're still on Wednesday evenings, but we're moving a few hours later. So please join us 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. And we look forward to seeing all of you then. Have a beautiful day. And thank you for joining us.
Bye.
Thank you.
The truth is here and now on WLTKDB Talk Radio at WLTKDB.com.
you.